Hi everyone, I'm Amy Stevens, and I'd like to talk with you a little bit today about the way that we think about other people. So the other night we had a time over the dinner table that allowed me to really come up with this devotional because my son Hunter, who's 19, really enjoys playing disc golf. And if you're not familiar with that, it's basically golf with frisbees. And what you know about disc golf is that it's naturally socially distanced, and you're outside and you're going to walk 3 or 4 miles in the course of 18 holes, and you are probably going to lose at least one disc. And it'll go in the woods or the water or something, and while you're out looking for that disc, you are very likely to find other people's discs. And part of this culture and this little group of people that play is that you always contact the person to get their disc back to them. Well, the other night over dinner, we learned that the word always is not actually accurate in this case. And one of Hunter's friends was at Play It Again Sports, where they sell used sporting equipment, and found one of Hunter's discs. So someone had taken it there to sell it instead of giving it back to Hunter. So what's interesting is the way that our family began to change in how we perceived a person that we had never met. And some of the words that were being used about, well, that was rude or arrogant or, different things like that. And I stopped everyone and said, okay, guys, what if this person lost their job and has children and is hungry and their kids are hungry, and so he learned that he could go and pick up discs from all over these parks and sell them, and that he could afford Taco Bell that night. How does that make you feel about this person? And after the boys saying, Mom, stop psychologizing us, and, a few eye rolls, I think the point was driven home that we don't know the intentions that someone else has or the circumstances that they may be in. Now, before you think I'm just this great gal that always thinks that way, I will tell you, I don't always think that way. I wish that I did, and I do try to. But so often, it's easy for us to just start immediately making assumptions about other people. And so what I would like for us to do is think about what Scripture tells us in Colossians 3. So in Colossians 3, we are told, first of all, in 3:1, that we are raised with Christ. The Scripture says, since you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Verse 2 says, set your mind on things above, not earthly things. So when we're worried about things like we were worried about at the dinner table, or when we start to put things in other people's intentions that we don't know are true, we're really not doing what God would do, or we are not really thinking about things above. We are definitely doing earthly things. And then I want to skip down to Colossians 3:8, which says, but now you must also rid yourself as all things such as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. So do you think that just because you don't say it makes it okay? Because even thinking these things is something that will separate you from others in your world, and also separate us from God by having that stuff in our heart. And so what I like to do is go down to now verse 15, where it says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. And if you back up a little, in verse 12, it says, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And I share this with you because the incident with the frisbee was very minor. But how do we act when something is more significant, or we're more concerned about something? So think about what our country is going through right now with the coronavirus, and how do we behave, or what do we think about people who think something differently than we do? Do we think they're afraid and silly if they're on one end of the spectrum? Do we think that they are inconsiderate and selfish if they're on the other end of the spectrum? And I think it's important that we realize we need to clothe ourselves with compassion and humility. We don't know what that person's gone through. We don't know why they may feel the way that they feel. But I do know that we are called to unity and that we are called to have the peace of Christ ruling in our hearts. And High Point, that is my prayer for you. That's my prayer for me, that we may exemplify that in the way that we think about and treat one another. I love you and I look forward to seeing you soon.